Welcome to the Higher Self Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you unravel anything keeping you from a life of true abundance, joy, and happiness, which is your birthright. Each week, we'll bring in different guests specifically tailored to help you on your journey to discovering your higher self. Whether it's spirituality, business, finances, health, or relationships, there are no topics that are off limits. So get ready and enjoy this week's episode of The Higher Self. Welcome to this week's episode of The Higher Self. This week, I got to tell you the story real fast. This week's episode, I saw a video on Instagram that Jen actually forwarded to me of this couple that, I guess flew to Costa Rica without knowing each other, met each other, fell in love, had a baby, all within like 9 months or something like that. And it reminded us so much of our story that I was like, you know what, I'm going to follow her. They seem like really cool people. And then here you are, Melissa Wells. How are you?
I am. Great, thank you. I love that connected with you.
Yeah, it really
such
did.
a whirlwind, but best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, because it resonated so much with me because in many ways it felt like our story, a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I love you didn't follow the rules because there are no rules.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes you got to learn the rules so that you can know when it feels right to break them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely the whole time I was single, I was like, I'm going to go really slow, with everyone that I meet and check in at every moment. And so when Sean and I met in Osara, it just felt so right, so quick that I was like, okay, look, let's slow down. Let's pay attention to the body and listen and just make sure that it's green flags, green flags, green flags. And it was. And I was like, okay, we're just going to continue and continue and continue. And yeah, it just felt, so right on a heart level, a gut level for both of us. And I've never experienced anything like it before in my life. And I think it goes to show that every relationship timeline is different. My last relationship was 4 years long and we were friends first for ages. Then we became romantic and it was just completely different. Mm-hmm. And then with Sean and I, it was the first night that we met, he was like, oh, I'm going to marry you. And I was like, he didn't say that to me, but he said that he felt it.
Right.
And then we had our first date and I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is my husband. Yeah, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And it was honestly, I know you have a lot of amazing conversations about the masculine and feminine energy, which I'm also so passionate about. He really held that masculine energy of just certainty and sure.
The decision.
He was just it's you.
Right.
I know. And I then got to just completely surrender to that.
I love
and
that.
Of course I had all of my oh, it's too fast. What if it's da-da-da-da? And he was just okay, I got you. I'm sure.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it was just, the polarity and that energy was really what I was calling in as well.
Isn't that great? Okay, so there's a lot that you just
So
said.
much.
I know there's a lot. I want to come. The first thing was, and this is going to be fun. I did not do this by design. I didn't start talking about masculine and feminine energy. Hell, I didn't even know what that was. Mm-hmm. I was the worst at relationships, but I saw it in my dynamics in my relationship. And I literally just talk about what I live, So the first thing that I have to get across to everyone was you said, I checked in with my body.
So important.
Right? And most women, most men do not understand what that concept is because we're living in our minds all the time. Mm-hmm. So share with me, share with the audience, what does that look like, feel like? How does that show up in your life? How do you tap into your body?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm at a place now where it's just a continual dialogue and communication of knowing how my body feels at any given moment. I feel like in relationships, what can happen is we can get so infatuated with someone that we kind of get so swept up in the highs, and then we don't kind of recognize that there's also the lows, and we don't recognize that we're crashing when someone texts it. When someone texts us, we're oh my God, I'm in this high of excitement and drugs. And then if they don't respond to us, we're oh my God, I'm worthless. This is terrible. I've been low. They haven't texted me back. What do I do? What do I do? And so checking in with your body when it comes to new dynamics, new partnerships, I find is so important because for women, the feminine needs to feel safe in order for her to open, in order for her heart to open, in order for her body to open. But what we can do sometimes if we're not conscious and not aware of how our body feels is we can just think that the highs and the lows mean there's so much chemistry. There's all these butterflies. It must be my one because when I'm around him, I just feel electric. When I met Sean, it wasn't like that. It was safety. It was chemistry and ease, but safety. And so I knew that I wasn't in a situation where we were trauma bonding, because I'd done a lot of work around that as well. I knew we were not in a situation where I was being love bombed. I knew I was not in a situation where I was like basing how I was going to feel that day off of how he showed up, because I was showing up for me no matter what.
Sure.
I was choosing me no matter what.
Sure.
And I've been on such a deep self-love journey over the last 10 years of my life, but deeply, deeply in the period of time that I was single before I met Sean. So I knew that no matter how this guy acts, as long as I'm in integrity with myself and I just keep staying true to my heart, to my body, and keep listening and really honoring, then I'm going to be good.
That's right.
Yeah. And he mirrored how I felt about myself. He mirrored that love and he mirrored that consistency and that stability. So I never had to worry like, oh, he hasn't called me, because he always did. He let me know exactly how he felt. He was in integrity. His actions matched his words. And I said to him, like, you are the divine masculine. I don't know if you know what that means, but you are that. And he was like, I have no idea what you just said, but
Cool.
great.
Yeah. This is so refreshing to me. It's so refreshing to me because we have these conversations with Jen, and to hear someone else that like understands it, it's like, yes, right? Because in essence, you were in your loving relationship and your journey of discovering and unfolding and trusting and learning and honoring yourself. And that energy, right? That centeredness, that commitment brought commitment, you know? So that when you finally felt it, the other thing that you said it was green flags, green flags, green flags. And I think that another thing that happens, because I'll be honest, it used to happen to me. It used to happen to me where I used to get red flags. But if you want, right? When you're coming from the energy of want and you're coming from the energy of need, like I want a partner, I need a partner. When is that partner going to show up in my life? How am I going to find them, right? You cannot possibly settle into or connect to or listen to your body.
Exactly.
Because you're in your mind.
Yeah. And you're always looking like, is it you? 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 And, you know, the way that I love to teach and explain and explore and learn from feminine energy is through the different feminine archetypes. And so for me, like embodying the energy of the queen, for me, is about that devotional path and that alchemizing of wounds to wisdom, but that like choosing yourself. So like knowing that you can be in your power without having that person by your side, but knowing that like, I know what I'm worth and I'm good. Like I'm willing to just be with myself because I'm enough and I'm complete.
That's right.
And it's okay if I'm with myself in this beautiful place for however many years until the right person enters into my life. And then it's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's not like the energy of like, where are you? Why isn't he here yet?
Right.
Which is that energy of I need him to complete me.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that that's where, you know, we can go deep in unraveling this, but, and I definitely, I want to go into the archetypes of the feminine. I want to go into that, but the reality is that we as human beings are truly living like external lives where either we need that relationship or we need the alcohol, or we need the cigarette, or we need the validation, and so I feel like I broke its record sometimes, right? Because I keep saying this to people. I don't know if people really resonate with it, but the way you're explaining it, I hope, right? I hope that now women are hearing it, not just from me, but from another woman. It's like, wait, I get to check in and I get to see, is it green flags or is it red flags? And if it's red flags, isn't it always red flags?
Right.
And why am I attracting those red flags?
And do I love myself enough
To
walk away from the red
Yes.
flags? Do I love myself enough to choose myself over this, which, maybe there are some aspects of it that are good, and maybe I could see the potential of what this person could be and what this relationship could be if he heals XYZ and changes this pattern and heals this trauma with his mom and changes his relationship with work and all these things that might happen one day.
Right.
Could be the potential of what could be a 10 out of 10. But do I love myself enough to go, actually, I deserve more than this, and I deserve green flags, and I deserve safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And I deserve the 10 out of 10 right now.
Yes.
I don't want to build them.
Yeah.
you know?
And that, this is something that I often say to my clients is, if he never changed anything, do you still love who he is right now? Can you be with who he is now? Is that enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I was speaking to a male friend yesterday, and he was telling me, I'm with this girl and I'm with this girl, and this girl there's A, B, C, and D, and this girl there's A, B, C, and D, and I just asked, I asked him, in each of them, it just feels like a lot of drama. And if you have a lot of drama now, will you be ever able to have peace? And if you're accepting the drama, like, what about you is calling in and needing that drama?
Yep.
Like, what about you doesn't see the drama and go, because for men it's looks, right? What about, in male conversations, what about you can go, you may look however you look, or you may whatever. The drama isn't worth it for me. I don't want to live a life of non-peace.
Right. But some people grew up in like a chaotic household, and so their nervous system needs that drama. They don't understand why, but they keep calling in these drama-fueled dynamics, or this like hot, cold, on, off, never know where you stand. And we've got to take a look at that, right? Because someone could have someone come into their lives that's green flags, safety, but they don't see it. What they feel is, oh, this feels boring. This doesn't feel as exciting as my past relationships. And it's because when you heal, as you know,
Sure.
you get to a place where you want that peace and you find that safety and that ease attractive.
And that's the only thing you'll accept or want. Yes.
So when I have women come to I just love the bad boys. Let's look at that, because that's not coming from a healthy place, and it sounds like fun and exciting, but it actually, how much hurt has been caused to you from like these relationships? How have they planned out for you, and how has your body felt throughout those experiences?
Absolutely. It's so funny, but it's also like, for me, it was the chase. Like, I wanted the chase.
Yeah.
Right. And until I said, hang on a second, time out. What's wrong with you? Right? What the hell is going on inside of you where you want what doesn't want you? And then when they finally want you, you're like,
yep,
hang on a second, this doesn't feel too good. And that's where I finally had to understand, like, I had a deep issue with accepting and receiving love. A deep issue with it. It was like on the cellular level. It was pretty profound, and I had to go into all of that and unravel all of that.
Yeah.
And even still, even still, like, sometimes Jen, she is all heart, right?
Yeah.
And she'll just love me and love me and love me, and I'm like, what do I do now? What do I do now? Where do I go? But it's a process.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's such a beautiful journey that never ends, of really looking at that and going, okay, like, where did this show up in my childhood? Where was like my mother or my father like slightly more distant, slightly more unavailable? And then how, like, some of the most deep and profound work that I've done in my relationships has been trauma bond work, and like looking at my father wound and looking at where his shadow attributes have shown up in my relationships, and even my stepfather, and like, oh, how are the partners that I'm calling in actually mirroring what I felt in my childhood with these different paternal figures, and how has that influenced my relationship with the masculine, and how deeply I can trust, or how I perceive the masculine.
Right.
And so I think I encourage anyone listening to this to go down that spiral journey of healing, and just start paying attention to, oh, okay, I feel like this around men, or this is how this certain types of relationship dynamics just keep showing up. Why is that? And start looking at, well, how did my father treat me? How did I experience his love? And, you know, with men, often it's the mother wound.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
and it's just be like so gentle with yourself as well for anyone listening that's like new to this kind of work, because it's like that onion that just keeps peeling layers and layers and layers.
Yeah.
But you just find just such a deep understanding of yourself.
Yeah. And grace.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
grace. It's so true what you just said, because everybody, you know, again, since most of us live up here, like we're like, okay, like how do I do this? How do I let it flow? I think the first thing is just be open to it. Like literally go back, re-listen to what Melissa just said, and just press pause for a moment and just say, wow, that was a lot. Like that's a conversation I don't think I've been willing or I even knew was available for me to have with myself. And as such, maybe that's something I need to start exploring. How do I explore that? Maybe I need to sit with myself. Maybe I need to eliminate distraction for a little bit. Maybe I need to step away from men or step away from women and really just uncover what's going on in myself and start looking at the parts of my life where I start looking for external distraction, right?
Yeah.
Is it sex? Is it partying? Is it the TV? Is it drugs? What is it? And you know, I have compassion for people, because when you start doing that, get ready.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, when you realize that all of your relationships have one common denominator, and that is you, and instead of going, he did this and she was like this, and why do all these men? And no, like, let's take a look at you. And it's, again, less of this, like, what am I doing that's wrong? And more, who am I being? You know, like, how am I showing up in these dynamics? How can I clean up my side of the street? And often, you know, when we start doing that and we start to look back at our lives and go, what did I do here? Who was I being in this dynamic that co-created this?
And a lot of people have a hard time with that one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like I just recently made a clip. And by the way, we're having a conversation. The team cuts a clip. So I must have said, in this one, I said something along the lines like, you know, you may have been in a relationship with a narcissist, you know, which nowadays is like a hot word, right? And like, okay, great. Yes. You know, in many ways, I feel like I've been in a relationship with a narcissist, but that's a whole nother story, right? But the real question is, what are you going to do about it now? You know, are you going to hold on to that story, that like badge of honor, which then becomes your identity? You know, and people hate it when I say stuff like this, but I'm trying to get you to the other side. It comes from this, poor me, I was once with a narcissist and they did A, B, C, and D to me. Oh, you were too? Let's become friends, right?
Totally.
Yeah, and then we start gathering more and more energy from this negative vibration, right? Instead of personal responsibility, saying, hang on a second. Okay, I was with a narcissist. What inside of me, in the depths of my heart and soul, right? What inside of me, what wounding inside of me energetically not only attracted the narcissist, but allowed the narcissist to think that it was okay for him or her to show up as a narcissist, versus why didn't the light in me, right, shine so bright that it brought out the light in him or her? So that meant I had to co-create the situation. And if that's the case, then I get to be personally responsible for it. And instead of what I've been doing, which was like pointing the finger at them, maybe the healing process, maybe, just maybe, it could be all about like looking within myself. And as a woman, I just want your take on that, you know?
I think, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think there's definitely a place where we have to go, what in me attracted this person and allowed this dynamic to be co-created? Because it's easy to point the finger and say, this person's a narcissist, but it's harder to go, well, I was a match for that. I was an energetic match for that relationship dynamic. I was an energetic match for what happened, what went down, and what can I learn from this? Because I think it's really harmful when we see, when we go out into the world and think that, like, oh, I better beware of narcissists, you know, like, oh, men are this, men are that. I've been treated this way, therefore I have this protection and this armor up because I don't want it to happen again.
And that very armor and that very energy, it's what draws more men like that in.
Right. Well, especially if you're in that victim mindset and that space of like, this happened to me, right? So, you know, I've had my fair share of relationship dynamics where I've like come away and gone, wow, how did I allow that to happen? You know, and for me, it's always an invitation into deeper self-love, self-worthiness, stepping more into my power and really deciding like, what are my new standards that I'm going to claim for myself? So if you feel like you've been betrayed in a relationship, you know, look at that and go, how did I betray myself by staying with this person? Like, where were the little red flags that I ignored, right? If you've been in a dynamic where you feel like I've not been chosen, someone else has been chosen, this person's chosen someone above me, I feel replaced, I feel abandoned. How can I show up for myself in a way where I choose me? I'll never abandon you. I'll never leave you. I'll never replace you. You are irreplaceable to me. Like that, like depth of commitment and devotion to oneself is what heals your relationship dynamics and what calls in something new.
That's right.
If you're still going around after this relationship has unfolded going, don't want to get into a dynamic like that again, and this person's a narcissist, and this happened to me, like, where's the responsibility and where's the, like, how am I going to shift internally how I feel about myself?
Right. And in so many ways, Melissa, and thank you for that, it was so powerful. In so many ways, that very commitment is what allows you, like, it's like going back to the beginning of our conversation, it's what allows you, when you see a red flag,
exactly,
you're no longer attached to them. You're no longer attached to the idea of a relationship. You're attached and committed to yourself.
Exactly.
And that's what gives you the power, you know?
100%.
So I want to get into the feminine archetypes. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What are they? Where did you learn them from?
Yeah, I love this. This is based on Jungian psychology, which I'm sure you know all about. But he discovered that there were these collective unconscious archetypes that exist within all of our psyches. And I really love this way of explaining feminine energy to people because I feel like people tend to have their own take on what it means to be in their feminine. And especially a woman who's been in her masculine her whole life and achieved a certain amount of success probably has a lot of beliefs around what it means to be feminine. It's less than, it's weak, it's submissive, it's soft, it's sexual, there's shame there, it feels chaotic, all these different things. It's going to be different for every single woman based on our own trauma, our own past, our own history. So what the archetypes do is it provides this language and this way of seeing how multifaceted feminine energy is. And there's also the masculine archetypes as well. Okay. But in the feminine archetypes, the ones that I love to work with are the maiden, the mother, the wild woman, the lover, the wise woman, the huntress, and the queen.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's all very attractive to me. Just those words,
I know,
that energy.
I'm obsessed.
It's like where a guy is like, yes.
And each archetype has the light and has the shadow, right? So the maiden is this like, just like want to see the world, want to explore, innocence, purity, just this like wide-eyed, like everything is new. It can represent our inner child. We're hungry for learning. We're hungry for adventure. The shadow of the maiden can be the damsel in distress or the victim. Why is this happening to me? Why me? She's not stepped into her power yet. So she can be taken advantage of. She can find herself in codependent relationships. She can be easily led, easily influenced, and so on and so forth. The mother archetype, beautiful, nurturing, big heart, unconditional love. The shadow of the mother can be the martyr, right? I give and I give and I give. No one sees me. I don't feel appreciated. So common. And then, you know, when you look at how the mother can show up sometimes in romantic relationships, it's like we don't want to be mothering our partner, right? So we want to make sure that if we're in that beautiful mother archetype, that we don't show up with that energy in our relationship, because then what happens when we start mothering our partner, they start acting like a child. And then we go, well, he just behaves like a child. So what am I meant to do? And it's like, we're co-creating this unhealthy dynamic.
And this is key, guys. This is so key. And then what happens is that the passion goes away. Exactly. And the respect goes away for the men. Mm-hmm. So it gets out of balance. Mm-hmm. And then you're in this relationship where you don't know how it happened. Mm-hmm. And it was because of this. It was the energy. It was the intangibles of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so the archetypes, when it comes to relationships, two really powerful archetypes to work with are the lover, which is usually the energy that two people meet each other in that first date. They're like in that magnetism, that like, ooh, little flirt, little wink, little play. And I think we forget to play with our partners because we're in like the daily to-dos of like the house and the kids and the money and all the work and the things that need to be done. And, you know, when it comes to reigniting that spark in relationship, the lover archetype can be really powerful to play with because the lover is just an invitation. Yeah. You know, it's like, hey, let's just relax and have some fun. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just enjoy each other instead of like, here are all the ways that you're not showing up for me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Even it's so interesting. I come from the business world, mm-hmm. right? And I remember that for us in the business world, and I don't want you to forget about the queen and the huntress.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember in the business world, and particularly like in sales. Mm-hmm. So I come from the sales world where everything was very like action based and everything had to be planned out, right? And I remember what was very common specifically for us, like in real estate sales back then, was everyone would show like it's date night, right? Like date night, like is this thing that has to get scheduled, mm-hmm. right? And this thing that has to have a time, which I understand it, but at the same time, like where is there room for play? Where is there room for spontaneity? Mm-hmm. Where is there room for relaxing? Where is the room mm-hmm. for the guy saying, pack a bag, I'm coming home in an hour, taking you to the airport? Like if it is mm-hmm. scheduled and there is no room for anything else outside of that, mm-hmm. then where's the room for fun?
Where's the room for magic?
That's right.
Yeah. And so often there are those moments during the day or during the evening where we have a choice to allow that spontaneity to take over and embrace it and surrender to it, or to go, oh no, it's not the time. Sure. I don't have time for this. We have got to do this, or, you know, no. And I think that invitation of the lover is to soften and to also be led, like allow the masculine to lead and allow yourself to surrender in his presence and open.
Yeah, and that's a hard one.
It is. It is a hard one. Yeah. It is a hard one. Yeah. And, you know, to dip back into the archetypes, I think a lot of women have been raised to be in that huntress archetype, which is, you know, the warrior woman. You know, I have my armor, I'm mission focused, I'm very driven, I know where I'm going. But the shadow of that can be the hustler and the burnout and no room for intimacy and connection because it's very lonely to be a hyper-independent woman. Sure. And I think what's happened in our generation is a lot of us have seen traditional gender roles at home when we were children, but then we've been raised to be hyper-independent women, mm-hmm. to not need any other support. So it's hard for women to soften into their feminine because they've learned, well, no, I've got to have all my shit together and I've got to be my own inner masculine because
if I don't, I die, basically.
If I don't, I die.
Right.
And also, like, I've got to take care of myself in this world.
Yeah. Which is understandable and fair.
Completely.
You know, I particularly feel for, there's a lot of single women out there, mm-hmm. right? And I see the comments, and my mother was a single woman. And she had to raise us three all by herself, you know, and I can only imagine what that must have felt like, you know, mm-hmm. and yet I just want to invite, you know, anyone listening here, male or woman, because if you are a single father even, it's understand that you can still on your own allow yourself the time and the space to tap into your heart. Mm-hmm. You know, you can still allow yourself the space, that little practice, whatever your practice looks like. And I want to ask you what that looks like for you. But, you know, for me, it's my meditation. It's my workout. It's my daily walk. It's my breathing. It's my connecting with my body. You know, what do you do? What do you do like to reconnect with yourself?
Yeah. Well, together we do daily walks twice a day.
You do?
That's like our thing. Since we had Sky, our little boy, just every day we just take the whole family out for a walk and we connect. No phones. We just drop in. Meditation's been a little more scattered since having a baby.
Yeah.
Be honest. But something that really helps me is just honestly just hand to my heart, hand to my womb, and just soften. And I use that word like soften. And I use that with my clients who like get into these things with their partners and they like put this like tension up and this armor up and they want to withhold their love. Go just soften and just notice that you are in charge of your internal state. Yeah. And if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like I've got my armor up, you can go, okay, soften. And sometimes, you know, just reaching out for a hug, just reaching out for a touch, just reaching out for a kiss is like a bridge to a new conversation, a bridge to a new state.
Absolutely. Especially when it gets to things like arguments, disagreements. Typically when we're in that state, we are in our minds and we are, you know, defending and reacting. But if you can, at least this is what has worked for us, it requires one of us to drop into our hearts. And when that one person can soften, I never thought about it that way, but can soften and just drop into their hearts, it typically is an invitation for the other person to do the same thing.
Completely.
You know, like you no longer have to be here. You can just drop in here and then you're able to say things like, I'm sorry. You're able to say things like, you know, I didn't see it that way. You're able to say the most empowering thing, which was, you know, I understand how I caused A, B, C, and D. You know, I will work on that, whatever. And that offers and allows space for the other person to do the same thing.
Exactly. Like it just allows you to drop into that vulnerable space and that heart-centered open space where connection can be restored. And it's sometimes hard to reach that place. It's hard to get there when the walls are up. And, you know, something that can also be a bridge to that is just by saying, I want to reconnect.
Yeah.
I want to reconnect. Even if you haven't like dropped into your heart yet, just say, even if you're like, I want to reconnect.
Right.
I want to reconnect. Like,
yeah. Just throw it out there.
Throw it out there and say, I don't like being in this space with you. Let's reconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And the queen.
The queen. Yeah. The queen, powerful, feminine leadership archetype, powerful in love because the queen knows her worth. She knows what she deserves. She is really in devotion to a higher purpose and a higher calling. And the queen is the magnet for the king, right? And so a lot of the time, you know, women are, and I speak from my past experience as well, approaching relationships in that maiden energy, which is like when he arrives, and this is like largely influenced by the movies that we were raised on, like Disney culture. When he arrives, I'll be complete. Where is he? Where is my prince? When is he coming? And we almost like live our lives in waiting. Whereas the queen doesn't necessarily need that king. She knows her truth. She knows her power. She knows who she is. She's like in alignment with herself, in integrity with her devotion, her mission, her alignment. But she's elevated her energy to a place where she's a match for a king.
That's right. She becomes a magnet.
She becomes a magnet.
That's right.
And it's like,
that's a clip right there. That was powerful.
Yeah. We enter into this space where we no longer, you know, I remember someone saying to me when I was single last, like, don't you get like DMs of like all these like random dudes like trying to send you pictures? And I was just like, no,
Melissa,
because I'm not a match for that.
Melissa, thank you for saying that. Do you know, I used to get that all the time from guys. Like, you know, you have this big Instagram account. Like, you know, I don't know how you do it. I've got 2,000 followers. You got, you know, at that time 600 or whatever. And they just keep DMing me. They want to hook up and like, this gotta be like thousands must reach out to you. And I'd be like, honest to God, that has never happened to me.
Yeah.
and you know, for a while there, it was like is something wrong with me? Like, is something wrong? But then I started to realize I was just not an energetic match for that.
Completely. And there's queen energy. And I've like been reflected that energy back by like the people that I meet and the people that I've attracted in. And so I think again is this invitation of what am I attracting in?
Sure.
Because we're always manifesting unconsciously, consciously, we're always a match for something.
That's right.
So how we start to shift that is not by what we're doing, it's about who we're being.
That's right. That's right. And from that queen energy, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a woman having financial goals.
No, absolutely
None at all.
not. Yeah.
But from that queen energy, you're no longer in that like need to hunt, right? It's just like I'm watching you right now. You're an example of what it is that I'm trying to share. You're like drawing in. You're simply drawing in your being. And from that being, everything that you want to be whole, happy, and complete, which is the finances, which is the love, which is the partner, which is the life. I mean, just look at the way I want you guys to catch it. See, she's sitting like a damn queen.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's that power. It's the way you hold yourself, right? And then I think that like sometimes when we tell women this, who are in there like they're masculine because they have to. It's a story that you have to. You also get to let go of that. And you get to slowly start to work to let go of that guard. And once you do, you eventually find your heart. And from that heart space where you unravel all of the wounds, everything your dad did to you, everything that your mom, everything that they weren't, whatever the case may be, you get to attract no longer from the wound, you get to attract from this new, like beautiful essence, this new energy that you are.
Yes, I love that. I always use the example of, the queen has been through her battles, but she's alchemized that pain to power and she's no longer needing to fight on the front lines. She's able to be on her throne.
Yes.
Right? She's able to have a team around her. She's able to have that support. So I work with a lot of women in business, right, who are building their business and they've been doing things in this huntress way and it's burning them out. And I think that huntress energy is so powerful to tap into. When you have a goal, you have a mission. It's the activist energy as well. Beautiful, like stand up for a cause you believe in. It's like such a powerful essence. I always think of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, that like activism energy, super powerful. And if we're building our business in that huntress energy all the time, we're losing that connection with our heart. And we're realizing that instead of like hunting for our goals all the time, we can actually rise to meet them and be the embodiment of what we want to attract and call in. The queen has a team around her. She's able to invest in herself. She's got the mentors. She's got the support system because she knows that center.
That's right.
She's leading from the heart.
Absolutely.
Right? And women don't have to grow their businesses if they have business goals, which I do. Like I've built a 7-figure business, but I didn't do it from being in that masculine hunting energy. As soon as I realized, I'm burning out so fast doing things this way, I had to surrender to a new way. I had to realize, okay, there's got to be a way to grow my business from my feminine energy. And it is, because the feminine power is community, it's magnetism, it's who am I being?
That's right.
That calls in the abundance that I desire. Not, do I have the latest strategies? Do I have the funnels? Do I have all of these like tactics? What is the right thing that I'm doing?
Right.
But if I shift who I'm being, look at what happens. Look at what gets called into my life. And when I look back at like my business success and people go like, what do you think contributed to that? Like what has been like the biggest thing? It's not some funnel. It's not some strategy. It's not one launch. It's who I was being and what I was sharing, how I was sharing that energy. That brings the people, right? Because people want that realness and that vulnerable leadership.
And you know what? Ditto as a man. People ask me all the time, like, how did you do this? Like, I just started being my authentic self.
Yeah.
I, honest to God, started being my authentic self, and it just started drawing in. And I'll say this, it drew in Jen. It drew in Jen.
Yeah.
Like I remember to this day, I remember when I said, when I was telling Casper about Jen, and he looked at me like, there's no way you'll ever get her. There's just no way, right? He was
Casper.
Casper, right? I was a Casper. He didn't know who he was messing with, right? And I was like, oh, you watch. But there was just something. Jen has been in her queen energy since day one, and it's so interesting that you say what you're saying, but we'll be talking. She'll be like, oh, baby, this deal just came in. And I go, what deal? Yeah, it's this brand or this whatever. And, they want to pay me $5,000 to like post something or do whatever. And I'm like, how the hell do you do this? Like, she doesn't lift a finger. It's just her being in her essence.
It's her being in her energy.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I was going to say, when you said the huntress, right? What they don't allow space for, or what you don't allow space for when you're in that energy, is attraction, which truly, that is the power of the heart, right? Because the mind envisions and decides and does the funnel and creates the plan and, does all of the doing, right? But the heart just gets to receive.
Yeah.
The heart just gets to receive.
Yeah.
And if you are not tapped into both, that's where you're going to experience burnout. Mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, in your relationship. And this is why relationships are having such a hard time, is because you have men and women together, right? Not in that queen or king energy. They're living from that, like, I have to go do it to make it happen. And if I don't, it doesn't get done type of energy.
Yeah. And then, the other side of that is I meet women who have built incredibly successful, huge businesses, and I meet them and they're unfulfilled. They feel lonely. They feel like their marriage has suffered because of it.
Yeah.
Or they're wanting to call in their king, but there's no room for him because the business is everything, right? And so some of the clients that I work with, it's like, how can we soften into a more feminine way of leadership? Because feminine energy is not just like, oh, work all day in the masculine and then soften into the feminine at night. Like, no, we get to be in our feminine in our work as well, right? We can do this. There is a new way.
Yes.
And so when we do this, we're actually allowing space for that masculine to come in, because I've met people who say like, my man, like he doesn't know where he belongs in my life because there's no room. What's the purpose? There's no purpose because I've created everything I've done myself.
That's right. That's right.
And so the beauty of going back to the archetypes, the beauty of the maiden energy is, I need you.
Yeah.
And sometimes the huntress gets to like lay down her armor and be like, oh, it would be so nice to like be taken care of.
Right.
And we're scared to admit that to ourselves sometimes. But like, I do believe that there's this deep longing inside most, if not every woman, of like, I'm tired of taking care of everything and everyone. Like, someone take care of me.
It's so interesting you say that, because and the people I work with, one of the number one things that women, like, once we allow the space and we provide the space in conversation, right, to allow them to drop into their truth, they say two things. Number one, I'm tired of having to take care of everybody. And then number two, because they've been in that energy and operating from that energy, I'm doing this, who do you think they attracted? They attracted a partner who was in that receiver energy.
Yeah, doesn't want to do anything.
Doesn't want to or need to do anything.
And it's that mother-child again.
That is exactly it, right? So then there's no room, there's no space for anything else, right? And this is like, that's the journey, right? The journey for us all, by the way, because I, as a man, had to go through this, right? Because I was in my, and then I spent a good year and a half where I honestly had no motivation, no desire. I just wanted to sing Kumbaya in the jungles, like doing ayahuasca. Like
I've been there, my friend.
You know what I'm saying? Just chilling, hanging out with everybody. And I was like, why do we have to work? Why do I need money? I don't want any of this stuff, right? And then finally, it's like, I didn't realize, oh my God, I'm in like my feminine. Like, this feels really nice, right? And then you get to just recalibrate it, right? But it's that journey. It's that journey from here to like here to the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's really attractive for the feminine to be with a man who has a plan.
For sure. Absolutely.
A man, the masculine needs that purpose, needs that mission to feel like he's in his full center and he's in his masculine.
Yeah.
And I've been in dynamics before where I've felt like I'm always the one initiating. I'm the one initiating the conversations about the future and like why, and then I'm asking like, why aren't you booking dates for us? Why aren't you taking me on a date? Why aren't you taking the initiative? And it's like, because I'm not allowing him any space to do that because I'm always going to him, right? And so the masculine energy is like always moving somewhere, right? It's like going somewhere, going in a direction, moving forwards. And I always like love to like reference nature giving us hints of this because the masculine, the male genitalia is like line, right? It's forward, moving, penetration, moving towards you.
Yeah.
And then the feminine is the circle. It's this cyclical nature. And so the feminine energy is like, keep coming back to ourselves, keep coming back to ourselves, keep coming back to ourselves. So if we as the feminine are going towards the man all the time, it's putting us into that masculine, right? Whereas if we just keep coming back into our own energy, coming back into our energy, then the man comes towards us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy the way that happens. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Final thoughts.
I
want to bring something up real fast before you say that. That tattoo.
Yes.
Talk to me about it.
These are from, so lots of meanings for this tattoo for me. This instantly brings me back to my wild woman era, which is my days in the jungle with ayahuasca. But it's also the snake is the symbol of the divine feminine, right? The snake is the symbol of death and rebirth, which the feminine is just constantly in death and rebirth cycles. It's a reminder that we're always dying and being birthed anew. And the serpent is that symbol of the feminine mystery, which I love to be reminded of. And also Mother Ayahuasca.
Mother Ayahuasca. And the Kundalini.
Kundalini, of course. Yeah. Kundalini hasn't really been my path, but yeah.
Yeah, it was for me.
Yeah.
Hey guys, before you continue listening, I wanted to introduce you to the sponsor of this episode, Athletic Greens. I decided to give AG1 a try because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, boosts my energy, and supports my immune system. Especially for someone like myself that fasts all day, I take it in the morning before starting my day and it makes me feel incredible. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body. It also helps me save an enormous amount of time and it makes my life so much easier with just one scoop in the morning. So it makes it a very seamless and easy daily habit for me. Just one serving of this stuff, AG1, supports my long-term gut health. It has 75 high-quality vitamins in it, minerals, and whole food source ingredients. So if you're looking for a simple and cost-effective supplement routine, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of their vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So just go to athleticgreens.com/Danny. That's athleticgreens.com/Danny and go check it out today. I don't know if you see in the painting, but in the bottom, we're showing a painting of a little boy with the mother, the father, and it's actually the Kundalini. And I didn't realize this was a true story when I first received the painting. It was painted by a painter who paints while he's on ayahuasca.
Oh wow!
And so he just gets this vision, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh wow. He painted me, that's supposed to be me, in a river.
Wow.
And then like 6 months later, my root chakra opens for the first time and my Kundalini opens up.
Oh, wow.
And I realize it's the snake.
Damn.
It's the snake. And the reason why I'm going to bring this up, because I don't think we realize how deep this is, but that snake, that serpent, right? That takes you back to the story of Adam and Eve.
That too. Yes, exactly.
Which is the foundational issue. It's the foundational moment where we were separated from our bodies. We were separated from source, from real source, from God. And the woman was made to feel less than. The woman was literally, because of the fear of the snake, was made to feel like, that the divine feminine, the Kundalini, her power, her energy, she was literally energetically taken away, made feel like she was the one that was wrong, like there's something wrong with her, right? And because of she has this thing that she has to pay the price for every single month for the rest of her life. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It was all a story designed to get us as human beings disconnected from ourselves
Yeah.
and disconnected from ourselves.
I agree.
Like there's no difference between you and I and you, and there's no one better, there's no one worse. But that story is
that's
the story that did it all.
Completely. And maybe, in fact, Eve was the one that woke us all up.
Maybe. Maybe she was the one that had the courage
Exactly. Yeah.
to eat the apple.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This has been wonderful.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I hope there's been a lot of takeaways for people.
For sure. I think there have been, because I think that, a lot of what I share from my relationship with Jen. And quite frankly, I share from who I was in past relationship. And I realize, that there's a different way. And I realize that when you come from a different energy, you allow space for different energy, and we get to transform, and yet I think it is absolutely wonderful to show an example and invite an example of someone who's like the living embodiment of it. Right. And
thank you.
Yeah. And I just, I'm going to say this. It is always interesting how anyone that comes on the show that is an enlightened, aligned, energetic being, you guys just have to, the common thread is they've sat with ayahuasca. The common thread.
Oh, yeah.
Speak to that for a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Ayahuasca blew my heart wide open in so many ways. I think I've sat with the medicine maybe around 13 times. And I've also sat with different other plant medicines as well. I think it's just I think if I could summarize what ayahuasca has helped me with the most, it would be just blasting my heart even more open, and I think shedding a lot of those layers. One of my wounds in the huntress, when I was operating in that energy, was this almost this need to prove myself through my work. And I felt like my work in the world dictated my self-worth. And so all of my worthiness was based on achievements, based on performance, based on not just followers, sales, but booking a TED Talk, publishing a book, speaking on this stage. It was all ticking off these lists. And one of the most powerful things that ayahuasca did was just kind of show me where that pattern originated from in my lineage. And I just felt the whole entire thing just dissolve in the ceremony. Just the whole thing just went.
Yep,
and I was like, my worthiness is who I am in my heart.
Yes.
And none of this bullshit matters. And then, of course, everything you go into the world, everything's different. Everything starts crumbling because you're like, this no longer means anything to me.
That was me. That was me.
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah, yeah.
What am I doing now?
Yeah. I just want to see
This is
Kumbaya.
meaningless. Yeah, exactly. And so there's that as well. And I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to sit with the medicine, because they're they know it's going to invite them into a surrender of a lot of things that they've held on to.
Yeah.
And it's true. I sat with the medicine, and then certain things didn't mean jack shit anymore. And I was like, oh, damn. I don't care anymore. What now? And so I think there has to be a death before the rebirth. Mm-hmm. But what comes in the rebirth is just going to be, you can still build your business. You can still do all the things you want to do, but it's going to be coming from a more integrated, healthy space, not this wounded energy of, I need to do this because it's going to make me look a certain way, feel good about myself. It's I'm already whole and complete. Mm-hmm. Being on Danny's podcast, amazing. But if I don't get invited onto your podcast, do I feel worthless until I get that invite? No. So it's it's coming from just this place of a wholeness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is called power versus force.
Yes, I love that.
Power versus force. David Hawkins' book.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
That's the thing right there.
Yeah. And I think we have this distorted relationship with the word power, but actually power comes from within.
Within.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll end right there.
Yes.
We'll end right there. Yeah. Okay. True story. We had ended the episode. So we're going to cut this back in somehow, but we started talking about some deep things that I feel need to be said
Yeah.
So go ahead. What you said.
I said, I've sat with ayahuasca a lot. I've sat with a lot of different plant medicines. We were talking about looking for God, right? And I
Because
said,
I was saying about the Adam and Eve story.
Yeah.
And how I was looking for God. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a pastor, Bible seminary, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, I've sat with ayahuasca a lot and nothing has blown my heart open to God more than becoming a mother. Like that for me has just obliterated my heart into like just other worlds. And I've shared about that a lot online, about how much of a deeply transformative spiritual experience the journey of maiden to mother has been for me. And it's been hard for a lot of people in my audience because they've been sharing with me like, motherhood's not like this. Like, what about all of the, like, it's exhausting and there's this and there's that. And I'm like, yes, but like, that's like going to an ayahuasca ceremony and being like, oh, it was terrible. I threw up so much.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but
it's on the other side of that.
What? Like,
right.
It's like so monumental and like exponentially like just so divine. And I think, we collectively can bond over things that are painful. And that seems to be what happens. We bond over things to complain about. And sometimes I see that happening a lot in motherhood. And so I'm really passionate about sharing the joy in motherhood and the sensuality of motherhood as well.
Wow.
Which I've received like a lot of people that get triggered by that.
Yeah.
But that's my truth. That's been my journey in motherhood.
I'm going to say, everyone's truth is different. It's based off of what they believe is truth. But I'll say it this way. I believe that when you unravel, right, all of the victim energy in yourself, because if you live life as a martyr and if you live life as a victim, you're going to find everything wrong with every situation in your life.
True.
So if you live life as a martyr and if you live life as a victim, and I'm going to say this, if you live life as a martyr, chances are you're probably still stuck in some sort of a religion, because the entire construct of religion is that someone was a martyr for everything that you do wrong. And you don't realize it. You don't realize that as a result of that, because of what you have been told to believe, you were living in this martyr energy, right? Because someone died for me and is coming to save me someday. Well, then that means I guess I gotta die. Like all of my happiness, all of my joy has to die, and I have to now die in order to like save these little beings that I have now created. It's all the same shit. It's all the same thing. So if you're living in that martyr victim energy, which I know you guys are going to hate me for this one, but I'm telling you this because I love you and I want to get you to the other side of this, right? Then you're going to find everything wrong in the most beautiful thing that you can ever do, like, which is being a mother.
Oh, and that's sacrifice. It's devotion. It's like, it doesn't feel like you're giving up parts of yourself when it gives so much to you, right? And so I know motherhood is exhausting, and I know it's like sleep deprivation and it changes everything, and like, oh, just the best thing. It's just the best thing ever.
Yeah. Where your focus goes, Dr. Joe Dispenza says this all the time, where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Yeah.
So this is we am saying this as an invitation. Yes, it's hard. The same way building a business is hard. Yes, it's hard. It's hard, and there is all that. And look at the beauty of it.
So beautiful.
Look at the
so
beauty
beautiful. And let's be more unapologetic with sharing the joy and sharing the beauty instead of just collectively bonding over what's hard.
I feel like I have to bring this up, breastfeeding.
Oh, the most
Look at your face.
the most sensual, intimate, favorite part of my day. Obsessed with it. Like already just like grieving the day that comes to an end. Like just love it. Hard in the beginning, painful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when his teeth are coming through, like, oh, ow.
Yeah.
And like, oh, just such a blessing to be able to feed and grow a human that I grew inside my body. Like,
What the hell? Yeah.
So this is why I say like motherhood for me is like having like this piece of God, this divine being in your home that you're taking care of and that you're leading through life. And it's the most divine gift and responsibility I've ever been blessed with.
Yeah, for sure. And I brought that up because the system is purposefully trying to disconnect mothers from the very thing that that they were created to do. Like Jen told me like recently that she's hearing now that mothers are literally taking pills to not have the milk come into their breast because of the way that they might look or whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on?
Yeah. There's this weird thing where I feel like mothers are being taught that like the sooner they can just get back to their work, back to their mission, back to their huntress, just like have a baby, and then it's almost like just add mother to like list of things that I have on my resume. And it's like,
no, absolutely not.
Like this deep surrender to this whole entire new version of yourself. And for me, it's been like where I found my most purpose, my most meaning. And I even went through this thing with my business during postpartum where I was like, oh, my business doesn't mean what it used to mean to me because I found so much meaning in motherhood.
Yeah. And that's where I talk about, it's like, if we, like for us as men, if we are able to provide that space where the mother gets to have that space and that time, like to just be a mom. Like we don't understand what that feels like. So then the way that we give and the way that we give life, right? Because we can't do this, right? Is to provide the space, right? And then that's where there's the three. There's the mother, the father, and then the child, right? And it's, I felt like we had to like come back to talk about this.
Let's bring back the importance of that family unit.
Yeah.
So integral and so healthy and so important. And I will say like when we had Sky, Sean's like drive for work and mission just went through the roof.
Right?
Mine went I just want to be at home with my baby all the time, right? Masculine and feminine, we're different. We're different, okay? So, I mean, every woman's different. And I know people will be like, that's not my experience with motherhood. Like, everyone has a different experience. I honor your experience, completely different to mine, maybe. I'm just sharing, this is my truth. This is how it's been for me. And it's not something that I see talked about that much.
Beautiful. How do people get a hold of you or learn about you or, do all things?
Come find me on Instagram. I am Mel Wells is my handle. Can come hang out with me, play. I actually have a feminine archetypes quiz / report if you want to know, like, what percentage of which archetype am I currently in? Then
okay.
I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
From a business side, that was genius.
Yeah, I actually nearly forgot about that. But yeah, we have that quiz and it's epic because it shows you like where you can also be in the shadow attribute of certain archetypes too.
Yeah.
And it's going to change as you go through different seasons of your life as well.
For sure.
Good one to keep hold of.
Go take that quiz for sure.
We'll put that link in the show notes.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This was fun for sure. And I want to meet Sean.
Yeah.
And I want to have, you know what? Let's have Sean on.
That would be epic.
Because I want to hear the
flip side.
The flip side.
Good idea.
I think that'd be wonderful.
I love that.
Yeah, and when Jen gets here, we got to go hang out.
Yeah. Amazing.
Fantastic. That's it. This week's episode of The Higher Self. This was a fun one. I'm happy. I'm happy because especially for those of you that are women, which don't ask me how this happened, but like 80% of our audience is women, right? I feel like you now get to hear what I've been saying, but from your package, a package that aligns and an energy that aligns with you. And so this might be one that you might want to replay a couple of times and again, the most important thing, right? The answer is not in me. The answer is not in Melissa. The answer is in you, right? The questions that you have to ask and the work that you have to do. And just invite it in and allow the space for the healing to show up. We'll see you next week on another episode of The Higher Self. Thanks for watching this week's episode of The Higher Self. If you heard something in this week's episode that caused you to think maybe, just maybe, there was a higher potential for your life, maybe there was a potential to earn and receive financial freedom, to attract the relationship of your dreams, or to improve your health, that's what we specialize in. We help wonderful human beings like yourself to unravel all of the limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've been living through so that you can finally tap into your life's truest potential. If you'd like to talk more about that, we invite you to join us on Instagram or Facebook and email us the word Discover more. And when my team sees that, they will reach out to you, send you the details of how we could help you on your pathway to a life of abundance, fulfillment, and creating the absolute life of your dreams. Message us right now the words "Discover More Now" on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll see you soon.